Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms, and you can find me on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, my co-host Dale at Dynasty_Dale. And we're back recapping all the offseason changes for the New York Jets for 2023. And if this is your first time in, thank you for joining me. If you've been watching all of these so far, thanks for coming back. And we're going to be going through all of the offseason changes, from the coaching staff to the free agents that they were signed, that were lost, the drafts. And then at the end of it, we're going to be giving some of our thoughts on the skill players for fantasy football, for dynasty football, and going through this year and the future. So that said, Dale, how are we doing today?
Hey, I am doing very well. We are excited to start pumping out this content, and here we go on day 4.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us for the first time, we're going to be releasing one of these every single day for the entire month of July for every team, all 32. And if there's any other content that breaks, any breaking news, because some players haven't signed yet, there's a couple players that are linked to the Jets, like Dalvin Cook. That news hasn't broken yet. So once that news does finally break, wherever he goes, we'll be releasing a second video sometime in the afternoon of that day, right? These will all be coming out in the mornings, but we're going to be giving you an absolute ton of content in the month of July. So if you are listening on, Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere that podcasts are found there, the audio only version, please come out, check out our YouTube channel as well. You can see our ugly mugs over there on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, tell the podcast to one of your friends. We're just trying to grow this entire offseason, and we're putting a lot of time into these videos, so we hope that you guys appreciate them and, give us a little bit of love back by liking the videos or anything. So that said, thank you guys for joining us. We're going to jump right into the coaching staff changes, and the main one for this team is going to be the new offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. Comes over from Green Bay to head coach for the Denver Broncos last season with Russell Wilson. Things go horribly for him as a head coach. Gets fired, I think, after 13 games, if I remember right, and then gets signed, picked up. They move on from, ironically, the offensive coordinator for this team, Matt LaFleur, or Mike LaFleur. Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is his brother, head coach of the Green Bay Packers, where Nathaniel Hackett came over from, and the trademark offseason edition, Aaron Rodgers, right? So these guys all kind of know each other pretty well, but they did move on from Mike LaFleur, replace him with Nathaniel Hackett. And I guess I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on Nathaniel Hackett, this signing?
I don't think he really matters in the whole scheme of it.
Fair enough.
I think I personally think Aaron Rodgers was calling plays anyways at a certain point. And he was trying to opt out of stuff with Hackett, and
Right.
they were more run heavy in Green Bay last year when Hackett wasn't there, but I don't think he really. I don't really think he matters. I don't really think he matters.
I agree. I was gonna say
I don't
think Hackett ever really called plays in Green Bay anyway. It was always Matt LaFleur, right? So I don't really see it as a good signing. I don't love giving Aaron Rodgers free reign, because I do believe that at least Matt LaFleur, he's a younger guy, but I do think that he was able to rein in Aaron Rodgers' ego a little bit better than I think that Nathaniel Hackett is going to be able to do. So I'm hesitant on this. It did not go well in Denver, and people are saying, oh, all of a sudden it was all Russell Wilson's fault. It wasn't Nathaniel Hackett's fault. The guy that couldn't even see the play clock to call in a play or timeout or any. Like, it's not.
Yeah, it was pretty bad for him last year. It was a joke the whole year.
Right.
It was.
Yep. So I'm a little nervous about it, but I guess we'll see how it kind of goes. But That is new. Not always new things are
That it
good,
is.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
basically once they signed Nathaniel Hackett, everybody knew that they were going to get Aaron Rodgers at that point in time. So we'll talk about. I guess we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers first. They traded a massive haul for Aaron Rodgers. I believe the entire trade, I got it here. So they traded their first round pick. I think it was pick number 14, if I remember
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Number 42 overall. They traded a 6th round pick in this one, a conditional 2nd round in 2024 that could be a 1st rounder if he plays 2/3 of the games. I think it is 66% of the snaps.
Something like that. Well,
Um,
and with that too, like it was actually a pick swap.
right. Yes. Oh,
Is
that's
what it
right.
was.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
1st round,
Yeah.
right?
In the first round this year.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. They gave up the 12 to move to 14. Yeah. Yep. I
Yeah.
remember now. Yeah. So a big trade for Aaron Rodgers. He comes over and has a list of demand of players that they tried to get in free agency.
Yeah.
So some of the players that they added, and we'll go through those really quickly. They re-signed or added these guys. They added a couple of centers, Connor McGovern. So we were talking about this before the podcast. There's actually 2 Connor McGoverns. We were going through this with the Bills, and I was like, I know we just talked about Connor McGovern, and sure enough, they're both offensive linemen, but Connor McGovern with the Jets, same spelling, is 4 years older than Connor McGovern with the Bills. So it's pretty.
Wild.
I, I
Wild.
was I was like,
That's
man,
wild.
did we miss something? Did we mess something up? But turns out there's just 2 of them. So,
Yeah.
Tristan Colin Castillo, another center that they brought in
Mm-hmm.
there. Solomon Thomas, defensive end. Defensive tackle, Quentin Jefferson, Al Woods, Isaiah Mack, a fullback in Nick Bodden. Adrian Amos, the free safety from Green Bay, bringing him over. He's a good player. He's kind of an older
He
player,
is.
but
Yes.
I think the best free safeties are the older guys, personally. That's just me.
They are.
They lost a couple of guards, which are a little bit scary for this offense. Nate Herbig and Dan Freeney. They lost Mike White as the backup, which actually is probably a good thing, to be honest with you, with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. We'll get to
Mm-hmm.
Zach Wilson, the he must not be named player, here in a little bit. They lost James Robinson. They lost Cedric Ogwebi. Yeah. Braxton Berrios, wide receiver, and Jeff Smith. Am I talking about players they lost? No, I'm talking about players they added. What am I doing? Oh
Yeah.
goodness, I switched.
It's all
Sorry,
right.
they added a couple. They added Wes Schweitzer, guard. They added Greg Zerline, Greg the leg. Thomas Morstead. They added Ty Johnson. They re-signed him. Billy Turner, a right tackle, brought him over from Denver. He was actually playing pretty well last year. He's a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a solution, but he's kind of a backup just in case, they get any injuries on the offensive line like they've had the last couple of years. They re-signed Adam Pankey, another tackle. They brought in Alan Lazard. They brought in Mecole Hardman. They brought in Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb. You got to respect Aaron Rodgers' loyalty, getting his friends just the
He
bag one last time.
absolutely, like he's trying to help his boys out.
Right. And I guess we'll just quickly, I mentioned pretty much everyone that they lost except for, Nathan Shepard and Sheldon Rankins, a couple of defensive linemen there. And Joe Flacco is also gone. George Fant, another offensive lineman, is also gone. So of the free agent signings, the additions and subtractions, what are the biggest impacts? I mean, we'll leave Aaron Rodgers out of it because obviously that's the biggest one.
I
But
was about to say it'd be Aaron Rodgers,
right.
but I think there's, I mean, I think I think the Jets are trying to go all in for the next 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they made a lot of moves for that, and with their cap structure and how it's going to be next year, especially, I think they made pretty decent moves. I think it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens in a very loaded AFC.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the issue, that it's a loaded AFC, and that division is very loaded too. Like with
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if all 4 teams made the playoff. I
Hot
really
take.
wouldn't.
I think that they're the
I
worst team in the AFC East.
that's very fair. That is very fair. And that could be 8 and 9, and
Yeah, yeah.
not that's still not bad.
No, especially
It's
for the
by any
Jets.
means. Yeah, yeah. So, I think in a whole, like, I don't think there was anything major other than Aaron Rodgers or anything, horrible or bad or anything like that.
Right. And then one other trade that they did make that wasn't listed actually, they traded Elijah Moore. So they did get rid of Elijah
Yes.
Moore
Yes.
before the Aaron Rodgers trade. So,
Yep.
that was an interesting piece. Goes over to Cleveland for a second
Mhm.
round pick. I think that that way they could give up another one to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers. But
Yep.
yeah, some interesting signings. We'll talk about the impacts of these players in the breakdown here in just 1 minute. We'll recap their draft. Nothing crazy in the draft. Will McDonald, linebacker in the first round. That one was a surprise from a lot of
It was
people.
a reach.
Yeah.
I felt that was a reach, and I think they freaked out a little bit
Yeah, Broderick
um,
Jones, the offensive
when
tackle.
Pittsburgh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, went
Pittsburgh
up
jumped them
and
with us,
yeah,
the New England Patriots.
yes,
So
yes,
I
with
think
New
that kind of
England.
screwed them a little bit. Um,
Yes.
Joe Tippmann, center in the second round. Don't hate that.
Mhm.
Need to buff up that offensive line. Tackle Carter Warren in the fourth round. Israel Abanikanda, my favorite running back of this draft class, probably just pure fun. In the fifth round, would have loved to see him go somewhere else, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
is what it is. Zaire Barnes, linebacker in the sixth, Jarek Bernard, Converse, cornerback in the sixth, and then Zach Kuntz. This one was a little interesting too. We'll talk about him in just 1 minute, but very, very athletic tight end out of Old Dominion.
Mhm.
He was like a 10 out of 10 RAS score in terms. He just destroyed the combine, just blew everything out at the combine. So no production to go with it, but very athletic. So in the seventh round, I don't hate it there. So anything with the draft, anything crazy?
Um, I think I think they did pretty well. I mean, they filled some holes. They did reach on McDonald in my opinion.
Yeah,
Other than that, it's it was a pretty solid draft, which they've been doing really well with Joe Douglas.
I agree.
Has been doing, yeah. I think overall he's been doing very well as a GM, and kind of taking some good things that he learned from Howie Roseman.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. So um, now the coaching staff. This is where we'll talk about these guys quickly, and we'll start at the top here. We'll start with the quarterback. So obviously, Aaron Rodgers comes over and is going to be the best quarterback that they've had in a long, long time. Um, I think that he's
Yep.
going to be just fine. Again, I don't really love giving him free reign because I think he's going to have it. Now, it worked really well for Peyton Manning. And
Hmm.
Aaron Rodgers is an extremely intelligent guy, but he's also unlike Peyton Manning. I think he's a little bit more arrogant, and I think that might bite him a
Hundred
little bit.
percent.
And that's
Oh
where
yeah.
this is where fantasy and real life, I think, are going to diverge a little bit. I think that Aaron
Yep.
Rodgers is going to be his own worst enemy for wins, like actual wins for the team. But for fantasy football, he's about to just destroy in this team. Like the
Hmm.
weapons on this team are just as good as what he's had at his peak in Green Bay, if not better, right? So I think
Right.
that he's going to be fine from a fantasy perspective. And I really don't have much to say. I think he's going to play for a couple years, and I think he's going to be a
Hmm.
top 12 guy the next couple years as well. I mean, do you see anything else?
I think it's funny seeing the parallels between him and Brett Favre
Oh, yeah, for sure.
in the transition to the Jets, where they're going to be a fringe playoff team, but the Dolphins are going to shoot down their hopes, which
Yep.
I hope to see it again, and it's going to be magical, and I'm
Yep.
going to love every minute of it. I think Aaron Rodgers just wanted to be in a bigger media market too. I think
True.
I, I I believe Aaron loved himself some Aaron.
Yep. Yep.
He always has. It's just kind of come out in the past, handful of years that he's this self-absorbed person who's
Right.
this
Yep.
free thinker, I guess you could say. So, but on the football field, I think he's going to do well. Like you said, he's going to play for a couple more years.
Mhm.
I think he has at least 2 good years left, if not 3.
Sure. Yep. I'm with you.
So,
I'm with you. So quickly before we go on from this, and we're trying to keep these pretty short, but 30 seconds on Zach Wilson here. And I know everyone in Dynasty has completely written the kid off. He was the number 2 overall pick and, has not worked out so far. Everyone has put all of it on his shoulders, but obviously Mike LaFleur got fired after last year, so the offense was not as good as people want to imagine, and it wasn't entirely Zach Wilson's fault. He was being led by a first-time offensive coordinator as a young player in the league. Now he's going to get to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple years. And, I think Aaron Rodgers, like you said, 2 good years. I think he's got this year, next year, and then he's probably gone, right? And in 2 years, that'll be right before Zach Wilson's 5th-year option, right? No, it'll be his 5th-year option year. So I think that they're going to pick it up, and they're going to see what they have in him at that time. And, you're taking a stash on Zach Wilson. He's got no value, so I think that he's an amazing buy right now just because he's going to be able to actually learn from someone who can teach him something useful. And, Zach Wilson's favorite player in the NFL was Aaron Rodgers. It's been known for a couple years now. And Aaron Rodgers has talked about he wants to make it very easy on Zach Wilson to kind of learn from him on the sidelines, essentially, but to learn from him nonetheless. So
right.
That's my only rant on Zach Wilson. And we'll go on to the running backs here quickly.
Yep.
So running backs, we got Breece Hall as the marquee name here. Michael Carter's still there. Israel Abanikanda, Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight. Obviously Breece Hall is very good. Are you worried at all that they are going to be more of a committee going forward, given Breece Hall's injury?
I think for the first half of the year, it's going to be committee because I think they should ease Breece Hall back in. I don't think he needs to be the workhorse right now. Like we've seen that the past few years that where these running backs have come back a little bit early and they don't really get their full strength back till the end of the year anyway.
Right.
So,
Yep.
I think he would be best served. I mean, it's not a J.K. Dobbins injury
No.
by any means, but I still think they should ease him back in my opinion. But I can see them rushing him in because of the Aaron Rodgers urgency.
Right.
I could see that because other than Breece Hall, I like Abakanda. I don't mind Michael Carter.
Mm,
Jonathan Knight's interesting. Travis Dye's interesting as well too.
sure.
I like he went undrafted, but I could see them going committee the first little bit, and I think that would best
Giving it
serve them.
more, opening it up
Yes,
more as the
yes,
season goes on.
yes,
So,
yes.
now the RB2, do we think it's still going to be Michael Carter, Abanikanda, 4th-round pick, decently high or 5th-round pick, sorry, decently high capital, but I still like Michael Carter. I think that Michael Carter is going to be more of the Aaron Jones for this offense than Breece Hall, but Michael Carter's a smaller guy.
I think it's going to be split between Carter and Avocado. I think it's going to be a
Sure.
pretty clean split. I'm not sure how much Joe Douglas has in stock in with Michael Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Personally.
Yep.
So I think I think it's going to be split. So I'm
Sure.
not really, in going into the year, I am like Dynasty. I'm not worried about Breece Hall, but I'm worried about him in
In
like best
redraft.
ball and
Yeah.
in
Yep.
redraft. Like I'm
Yep.
worried about I'm like he's kind of off my board at that price in those types of formats.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, so receivers then, and yeah, so I'd probably rank it Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Abanikanda in that order
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Um,
I would too.
Now receivers, obviously you have Garrett Wilson at the top. He's the best player here. People are kind of crowning him a little bit early. I do think he
They
has the
are. They
talent,
are.
but you know, uh, we just got to be a little careful. We got to be a little careful. There is risk that no one wants to acknowledge at all whatsoever. But
Well, and two on that, like we've been spoiled with Justin Jefferson,
yeah,
Jamar Chase, with
yep,
these generational talents.
yeah,
I mean, I do believe Garrett Wilson is a generational
yeah. I
talent,
agree. I just think that we need to. No one is
yeah,
acknowledging any risk at
right,
all, and that's what scares me a little
right,
bit. But
agreed,
because I
agreed,
can see the
agreed.
path where he doesn't produce at the level that everyone has kind of
Hmm.
given him,
Is
but
drafting him at,
Right.
especially.
Yep.
Yes,
But I definitely
100%.
would still have him as number one. Now, Alan Lazard, I think, is definitely the number two just because he's Aaron
Agreed.
Rodgers' guy.
Yep,
Is there any
agreed.
value in Corey Davis or Mecole Hardman in this offense?
I think there's a little bit.
Corey
I
Davis
think
is a
I think
little interesting. Mecole
yeah.
can't catch shit.
I was gonna say that Miko Hardman's a little interesting. I think they're gonna try to
All right.
gadget. Like I could see him being the gadget guy, or I can more see him being the old Randall Cobb.
Fair enough. Well, they've
Honestly.
got old Randall Cobb too, though.
Well, I'm saying like the
Right.
2016
Right.
version of Randall
Yeah.
Cobb.
Yep, I'm
Yeah.
with you.
So
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the breakdown of these players are. Like, is Garrett Wilson going to be primarily in the slot? Or is it who's the slot receiver for this team? That's the question that I have. Because I don't
yeah,
think it's going to
it's
be Randall Cobb. Maybe, but
no. But I mean, I could see it being Miko Hardman because
maybe,
I
maybe
mean,
get his
I mean,
speed out
or
there. Yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and just having some because I don't think Denzel Mims was anything, even though
No,
we want to
yeah,
believe that.
yep. And I
Other
don't
than
think
that,
Corey
like
Davis could be a slot guy personally. So
no, 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 no,
all
no,
right, so
no.
Dale's on team Mecole. I'm on team Corey Davis. We'll see how that kind of
Yeah,
breaks down, but I think there's a pretty sizable gap between Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard, and then an
yeah.
equally large gap between Lazard and whoever the three is on this team. I think
Hmm.
Rodgers is going to kind of force feed the Garrett Wilson and Lazard, and then the running back
Yep,
probably is who you probably want to
yep,
have there.
yep.
Tight ends are, they've still got CJ Uzama. They've got Tyler Conklin. They've got Jeremy Rucker.
Me
They've got Zach
Ruckert.
Kuntz. Is there anybody that you actually care about, though, for fantasy? Like Aaron Rodgers,
Not
people have been,
really. I think he's gonna pick a guy, and that's
I
who
don't
it's gonna
think,
be.
yeah,
And
that's the thing with Aaron Rodgers. People have
yeah,
been, mocking him a tight end for years, and he's never utilized them um,
yeah.
forever.
Well,
So
I feel
it was one
if
guy like a decade and a half ago.
I feel if he finds a guy, he's gonna be relevant, like with what Tunyon
Yeah,
was a couple
we'll
years
see.
ago.
We'll see.
I could see them having
Tonyan
that
was only
like
good though because he
season.
had double-digit touchdowns. Now
I
there could
agree.
be a guy.
That's
Yes,
why I'm
yeah.
saying that's why I'm saying like I could see it being like that,
I
and
think it'd be more Corey
that being a
Davis. I think
surprise.
it'd be more Corey Davis. Corey Davis should just
Fair,
become a
fair.
tight end, to be honest with you. But um,
Right.
yeah. So from a dynasty perspective, you can take a stab on Uzama. You can take a stab on Conklin. I don't think
Hmm.
that there's going to be any real relevance or predictability with that whatsoever. So, you know, from a dynasty perspective, it kind of sucks. You're really excited about Aaron Rodgers coming over here. I like Aaron Rodgers if you need in Superflex a top 12 guy that's pretty
Yep.
cheap. Like me and Dale
Yep.
just got him in a league, a Superflex league from a contender or from a rebuild, right?
Hmm.
For a second and a third. And that's a
Love
top
it.
12 guy. Like, yes, he has a
Yep.
very
Love it.
limited window, but it's like buying Tom Brady at the end of his career. You knew he was going to
Hmm.
put up good numbers, but your clock is running out. Other than that, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and then I'm probably washing my hands. Maybe Alan Lazard if I absolutely need to, but other than
Yeah.
that, I'm washing my hands. I don't think anybody else really makes a noticeable impact for fantasy. Do you agree?
I agree with that. Like, I don't think there's any really tight ends that are going to
Yeah.
emerge. I mean, I think there's so many that we don't know who's going to be the guy yet.
Yep.
In
So
the wide receiver room, there's only Garrett Wilson. I mean, I think Lazard could be spicy, but maybe like
yeah,
as a wider as a wide receiver 3 or your flex.
exactly. Yep.
I would not depend on him as a wide receiver 2. Not even close.
Yep, I'm with you right there. So that is the New York Jets. Let us know your thoughts. I do think that the defense is going to be a little bit weaker with some of the changes that they've made, but again, you've got Aaron Rodgers, so I don't think that I think that helps for fantasy football if the defense gets a little bit weaker with this. So,
Hmm.
any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
Nope.
All right. So that said, thank you guys for joining us on this one. Again, wherever you're listening to the podcast, just please like. It takes 2 seconds to go click that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to be bringing out tons of content for you all month long. And if you can, just leave a comment. That just helps generate more traffic in the algorithm. And that's all we're kind of looking for, just to grow the podcast, like I said. So we appreciate you guys for joining us. And if you've made it this far, again, truly appreciate it. Tomorrow we're going to be dropping another team. Come back to find out who it is, because I don't know who it is yet. we'll record tomorrow. But sounds good. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.